Before I get started, I just want to say, if you've ever felt like you weren't supposed to be here, or you weren't supposed to make it in life, or just wasn't supposed to be alive today, then this video is for you. My name is Brandon Walsh, and this is my story. My parents planned to have me, just like they did my brother, a home birth. A month leading up until I was born, my mom came down with this rare condition called the cholestasis condition, and it affected her liver, but it also had an effect to the baby, which was me at the time. And leading up to that, they realized that, okay, this is more serious, so we had to have him in the hospital. So they go to the hospital, and the hospital that I was born at was Allergies County General, which doesn't exist anymore, but everything went normal with the birth. My dad got discharged and he was pulling around the car, and so my dad was waiting just for my mom and me to get discharged, and he pulled the car up to, pick us up, and one of the doctors takes a look at me and they're like, his color doesn't look right. If you don't know what that is, colors like on your face and stuff like that, and your skin, doctors just can tell if you don't look right. So I guess I was looking kind of bluish and purple. So one of the doctors said it didn't look right, and so they had to transport me to Shands. It was like an emergency. So they transport me, and while they're on the highway transporting me, the ambulance on the highway breaks down. No lights, no nothing. So my dad comes up behind them and he sees this ambulance and he's like, what in the world? And he, everything's running through his brain and stuff, could it be a different one? So he stops and he realizes it's the one carrying me in. And so they called for another ambulance to get there. For some reason, the ambulance just broke down out of nowhere in the middle of the highway. So my dad blocked traffic so that they could jump in the back and stabilize me and stuff. So Dr. Saxonhouse was able to jump in the back and he was able to stabilize me with his hands. And they waited until they got another ambulance, and then finally one did show up. And then I got rushed to the hospital. Once we get to the hospital, the doctors took a few looks at me and they came back to my parents and they said, we have three choices for you. They said, you can take him home and he can pass away peacefully. The second choice was we can put him on a heart transplant wait list, and they were saying that I likely wouldn't survive until then. The third option was to try this 3-part experimental surgery. The first one was called the Norwood, the second one was the Glen, and then the third one was the Fontan. And they were able to tell my parents when they came back that I have hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Most people have 4 chambers in their heart. I only had 2. And so that was a problem. Obviously, I had half a heart. And so they come back and my parents were like, okay, let's go and let's try the third one. Let's try the experimental surgery, right? So going into this coming up next week, the first week of me being born, I struggled really bad. I crashed many times. The doctors had to stabilize me multiple times just to keep me alive. I had to be sedated because I was just too weak to get fed. So I was sedated and I was kind of like in a coma. So they were feeding me fluids through my body and stuff. And I was born on a Tuesday, and then the Friday of that same week, I got really sick, up to the point where they didn't think I would make it to the surgery and wasn't gonna be able to get the surgery, which I was gonna get the surgery a week after I was born, so then the following Tuesday. And Friday, I was just sick. Saturday morning, I was still really sick. I guess something happened over the weekend though, because Monday, I was feeling amazing. And they were able to do the first surgery, the Norwood, and so they did that when I was a week old, and that went very well. And then I spent 3 months in the hospital, just, growing. I dropped to 6 pounds, below 6 pounds. It was really hard for my mom to feed me when someone would walk in the room when my mom was feeding me. If it just just a person opening the door, I would just spit it all up and throw it all up, all the food that I just ate from my mom. I guess I just erupted when I was a baby, and I just spit it all up and everything, and it just, like, my mom spent hours a day just feeding me. Fast forward, my next surgery happened when I was 2.5 years old, and this was the Glen, and things were looking good. You know, I went through the surgery, and that went very well. And then fast forward, the next surgery I had was the Fontan, and that was when I was 5. And so that one went really well too. And then they were telling my parents, they're like, okay, maybe he'll survive till he's 2. And then I survived till I was 2 and had that surgery. And then they're like, okay, maybe he'll survive till he's 5. And I survived till I was 5. And then I had that surgery. And then when I turned 5, okay, maybe he'll survive till he's 8. And so then I get to 8 and I'm still, you know, doing okay and everything. And I'm okay and I'm surviving and everything's going well. So then they said, oh, maybe he'll survive till 10. And then I get to 10 and I'm doing amazing. So at this time, I think it was either when I was 9 or I was 10, I became really allergic to bees and wasps, right? And that really kind of sucked because we had like this playground growing up, right? And we had like a lot of bees nests and stuff on there. And so with that being said, I got stung once. I believe it was by a wasp though, and I got stung by a birdhouse that we had set up. And they take me inside, and I was never allergic to anything in my life leading up until this, right? And we didn't know I was allergic up to this time too. And so I get stung, and for about like, you know, I go take a cold shower because I started getting bumps all over my hands and everything. And my whole body started getting like little dots and stuff, and my color was terrible and off. And my mom was able to tell really well on my color and everything. So I go inside, take a shower, and that didn't really help. So I lay down, and then my parents called some paramedics they called, 911, and they called the paramedics, and they come to the house, and they check on me, and they say, oh, I think he's all right. I think he just got to wait like an hour. And so they left. They gave me, I think, like some Tylenol or something like that. And then they left, and then I'm still laying there, and I'm getting a lot worse. I'm throwing up and stuff. It's getting pretty bad. And so then my mom's like, to my dad, you have to take him to the hospital. So my dad takes me to the hospital, and it's just me and my dad. And then my mom comes in the van with the rest of my siblings and stuff. And I get to the hospital, and I can't walk. Like, I'm just like not functioning at all. I'm seeing color, I'm seeing lights, stars and everything. It's terrible. And my dad's holding me over his shoulder, and my head's over his shoulder like this and stuff. And I just throw up right when he's trying to check in the hospital, over his whole back of his shirt and the shoulder. And then doctors come out of the emergency room, and they take me into the emergency room, and they realize, obviously, I'm allergic to wasps and bees. And so then they inject me. I don't know if it was steroids and stuff at this time, but it was something to stabilize me. I believe it was the steroids. So I had a bunch of shots and stuff going in on my legs and on my arms, and I couldn't feel a thing because I was already in so much pain from the, just physical pain from the wasp stung, that it just, made me not feel any pain. So then I just, my eyes flip, and I go, boom. I'm just, asleep at this moment. And I wake up, I think, about 5 hours later, and I'm just in a hospital bed. And I had to stay in the hospital, I believe it was for 2 days. And they gave me some symptoms and stuff, and now I carry an EpiPen with me if I ever get stung and stuff. But that was the first time, and that was really bad because I almost died that moment. If I didn't get help probably 20 minutes later, I probably would have been dead. And so, ever since then, I've tried to avoid getting stung by wasps and bees and all that stuff. But didn't stop though. I got stung about 2 more times and had to go to the hospital. And they were pretty bad times. One of them I had to spend 2 nights in the hospital for again. And then the second time I just went to the hospital, and then I was able to, I think, come back that same day. So over the years, I've been getting older and stuff, and I've been getting, I guess, over it. And recently I was stung by a wasp, and I just took my EpiPen and stuff, and after, staying like inside and laying down and stuff for like an hour, I kind of got over it. So that was the last time, and that was like about a month and a half ago from recording this. And yeah, so that was some interesting moments. But growing up from the age of 10 and stuff, they're like, okay, maybe he'll live till he's 13. I get to 13, I'm still breathing, still living. I wasn't able to do a lot of things growing up, like go on roller coasters and anything crazy that like just races your heart, because the problem is you could skip a beat and then you're, screwed. So growing up, I wasn't able to do a lot of crazy stuff. So I grew up and I did karate, and that was like the only sport I did. And I loved doing that. It was amazing. Did that till I was about 12. And then I stopped doing that. And then, so then 13 come around, and they're like, okay, well, maybe he'll survive till he's 15, and, maybe he doesn't need a transplant yet, a heart transplant, by the way, but he might need to get one soon. So around 15 was when they started checking my liver, and then I got this thing called a calf a few times, a bunch of times actually, but so it's not really fun, but they put you asleep for it, so it's like, you don't remember anything and you don't feel the pain, so that's pretty nice. But I've been getting that, and so far, I'm 18 now, still kicking away and still chilling. So far, no problems regarding that, but, there does come a time soon when I might need a heart transplant. Hopefully, I can go as long as I can with just what I have right now, but one day soon I might need one, and I keep praying every day that I'll survive another day with this one that I have, because it's special. To continue, I want to tell you about my testimony and how I got saved. So, I grew up in a Christian home. I have 10 siblings. There's 11 of us, and I can say all their names, but I'm just not going to. But yeah, I have 10 siblings, and I'm the second oldest out of all of them. So yeah, I kind of got a big responsibility, but there's like a big load on me for having this heart condition stuff. So I grew up in a Christian family, and went to church, every Sunday, and every Wednesday night and everything. And I knew God existed, and I knew that he was real and all this stuff, but I didn't really know what it meant to be saved or born again. And, sorry if I get a little emotional about this, but, just it's a very emotional part for me. So when I was 13, I gave my life to Christ, and it's not like you go through, like a lot of people go through hard times in their life, and I just had a physical problem going on, so it's hard for me, but sorry. But when I got saved, during my testimony, when I got baptized and everything, sorry, it's just very emotional for me. But when I got saved and said my testimony, I remember saying how sorry. I remember saying how I was born with half a heart, and that's all just, physical, right? The physical world and stuff. But what meant the most to me was my spiritual heart, my soul, and my spirit. And I remember saying, when I got baptized for my testimony and stuff, that, I was born with half a heart, and even though I don't have a full, even though I don't have a full heart physically, God gave me a full heart spiritually when He saved me. And He forever changed my life. That day when I was 13, it was around August, so like right after summer. And He changed my life. He showed me that I do have a full heart, and it was my spiritual heart. I just didn't know it till that moment. Every moment of my life, I've, always looked at my physical defects and, my physical heart and stuff, and never, took a look at where I was spiritually, where I was with God. And it wasn't till that moment that God showed me I did have a full heart. And I had that heart, and it was in Jesus. And that day He saved me. I've known, since being born, since all these, potential almost dying scenarios, and that I'm still here, the sole reason is because God has a plan for me. Now, I might not know fully what that plan is, and I know part of it is telling my story and, seeing what's next. But every single moment of just from bee stings, from the surgeries, from just the very moment I was born, and just a doctor looking at me and noticing color different on me, all that is a blessing from God. Everything was a miracle. Everything from the doctor looking at me to my dad taking me to the hospital when I got stung by a bee to where I am now. Every moment of my life has been a miracle. And I'm literally living proof, because I should not be here. The doctors have told my parents multiple times I want to make it to this age, or I would need a transplant at this age. And I'm still here. I don't have a transplant yet, and I'm not on a waiting list yet because I don't need one yet. And hopefully I will never need one, but there is that out there of one day when I might. But every moment of my life, all the bad stuff, whatever could have happened, it's all been for God's will for my life and God's purpose. And, I've gone through trials and tribulations my whole life. And so I'm nothing short of just a miracle from standing before you. But one thing I know that, a lot of people struggle with is them not really knowing what their purpose is, or what God's will is for their life, or what are they supposed to do. They're always stuck. They don't know how to get out of this situation they're in, or they just feel lost, they feel depressed, and they feel terrible. And the truth is, all you need to solve depression, to solve loneliness, to solve that hunger to want to do something in your life, something meaningful, something purposeful, is Jesus. Jesus is the only way. And once you have Jesus, everything just starts to look clear, and you know what to do. And maybe you don't in some scenarios, but it's going to be good and it's going to go okay because God's got you. And I just know from my own life personally that God has saved me countless numbers of times. There's been multiple examples when I was think I was 3 or 4, but I think it was 3. I got in a really bad car accident. My whole family did, and it was really bad. And we were in the hospital for a couple days. And then I got in another one when I was 15. And that one was pretty bad too. But from all the scenarios, near-death experiences, I have not really taken any scratches, no, broken arms, no nothing. And, besides the physical thing I was born with, besides that, I'm completely normal in the sense of I'm just like anybody else. And I really think that God, uses everybody in special ways. And I think He, I was born with all these situations, and I grew up with a bunch of countless problems, that God wanted me to share this story with all of you, to show you that no matter how hard life is, or how tough it is, or whatever scenario, whatever you're going through right now, or did go through when you were younger, or will go through, God's always there. God's always got you. And so I don't ever worry about tomorrow. What are we going to have for tomorrow? What are we going to do? Will I need to get a heart transplant tomorrow? I don't worry, because God's always there. He's always helping me. And ever since that moment I got saved, I've known just every moment of my life was a miracle. And it's just a miracle that I'm right before you right now. And another thing I know a lot of people struggle with is they have a lot of physical problems, or they just have problems in life, and they think they can't chase their dreams. And I'm telling you that that's not true. You can chase your dream no matter what situation you're in. You could be in a wheelchair and you can chase your dream. You could be in the hospital for the rest of your life and you can still do your dream. Your dream might not be like, your dream could be to play football, and you can't walk, so you can't play football. Well, maybe God's vision for your life is different, and maybe your dreams got to change, because like growing up, I was big into Legos, and I always wanted to be like a Lego maker, like somebody that made Lego sets and everything like that. And my whole life I wanted to be that. And then my dream just suddenly shifted. And it always has like shifted. And I've never known exactly what it was I was supposed to do until I started seeking Jesus, and until I started making Him the focal point of my life, the first above everyone, before myself. If you put Him first, He will show you the way. He will show you what that is. And, He might switch your dreams up, and you might have different things you like now, and, but I always say, dream as big as you can and go for it. Just go for it. Because opportunities come in everybody's life. And I know that, someone might want to get this job or do this thing, right? And for my current dream is to become a movie maker. I want to make movies. It's a passion of mine, and I love it. And that's what I'm working on right now. But, that could maybe not work. And then my dreams just got to shift. But chase your dreams. Do it. Take the next step. Maybe your dream is to become an influencer or something. Just pull out your phone, take a video. It's super easy. Don't worry about what the comments say or what anybody says. Just do your dream. Chase it. And put God first in your life. And He will pave the way. Because one thing I know is that God's way is way better than anything we could ever imagine. So if you've already imagined your best life for yourself, God's already got a plan, and His is better. And I just want to say, I'm chasing my dream. I want to make movies, and it's going to be really fun. But don't And I got to know this, like the back of my hand. I got to put God first, and I can't, get steered away. I can't get, too much into the fame or whatever comes from it, the money or whatever. Because once you start to put those things, you'll lose sight of God and you'll fall, and it's a really dark place you can fall in. But put God first in everything you do, and He will show you the way. He will set the path. My name is Brandon Walsh, and I'm living proof that you can chase your dreams, that miracles happen, and that God's real. So, go out and change the world.